Okay. Good afternoon. It's 1:45 and I'd like to call the meeting to order, the meeting of the Permit Review Committee, and we'll begin with the roll call. After I call your name, please reply here present and confirm that you can see and hear me. And we'll begin with Commissioner Fair.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Great. Commissioner Ponce.
Here, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Rubin.
I'm present and I can see and hear you.
All right. Well, we're excited to have you. And I'm also here, and we have a quorum and a growing committee, which is great. So we'll begin with a statement. In 2020, Governor Pritzker signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that Chairman Wong of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks determines that an in-person meeting of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee are not practical or prudent. Chairman Wong has determined, pursuant to Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act, that an in-person meeting of this Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee is not practical or prudent. He has also determined, pursuant to Section 7E5, that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is infeasible for at least one member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place for either meeting, inasmuch as there is no physical meeting place. Pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks on June 4th, 2020, regarding the chairman's emergency rulemaking powers, Chairman Wong issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation, effective February 18, 2022. These rules are posted on the Commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular Permit Review Committee is a virtual meeting being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. Permit Review committees have been held virtually since May of 2020. Meetings are structured to minimize the chances for technical difficulties. Members of the general public have been encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and these have been posted on the Commission's website and are available for public view during the virtual meeting at www.chicago.gov/ccl. Per the emergency rules, verbal statements by the general public for all agenda items will take place at the beginning of the meeting, so all those wishing to speak at today's meeting should be signed in the Zoom meeting at this time. Before we hear staff presentations on the agenda items and ask to hear from owners or applicants and their teams, we will open the floor up to members of the general public who wish to make a comment about the items to be heard on today's agenda. Members of the public wishing to comment should use the raise hand function of Zoom to indicate that they wish to speak. Members of the public not using a smartphone or computer and instead phoning in to the meeting should press *9 to activate the raise hand function and do the same to deactivate it. I or the meeting facilitator will call out the names one by one and unmute those people. Once unmuted, speakers should give their full name and organization, if any, they represent. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Once all members of the public wishing to make a comment have been given the opportunity to do so, we will go through the agenda. I would ask that owners and applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, wait to speak until after staff presentations have been made on their agenda item. And I'd like to go through the agenda items to allow for public comment at this time. There are 8 agenda items. The first agenda item is for the project at the Pioneer Trust and Savings Bank at 4000 West North Avenue. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see one. Mr. Ward Miller.
Yes. Can you hear me, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm Ward Miller. I'm Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. Again, we want to welcome Commissioner Rubin to the Permit Review Committee of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Welcome, Commissioner Rubin. Preservation Chicago is very, should I say, extremely supportive of the proposed rehabilitation of the Pioneer Trust and Savings Bank by architect Carl Vitzum and located at 4000 West North Avenue. We were extremely supportive of the Pioneer Bank Chicago Landmark designation in 2012 and extremely elated that after years, many years of vacancy and some vandalism that we've been working with the community towards resolving, that this building is set to be revisioned as part of a larger project that will engage it with a new building, a new construction to its north. This really speaks so thoughtfully and in such a supportive manner to the Invest Southwest program, and also the Adopt a Landmarks program, two programs that have been really incredible in getting these buildings that have been sort of languishing within the inner cityscape back to use and honored and sort of redesignated, if you will, as important cornerstones of our community. So we are very supportive of this project, the proposed rehabilitation of the exterior of the building, the revisioning of the interior spaces, and the restoration of that grand banking lobby hall. So we've been working with members of the community, the North and Pulaski community. We've been working with the architects over time and the former owners as well towards this day. So we're just elated that finally this bank and another, the Laramie State Bank, are both being engaged in new projects that will benefit these neighborhoods and our city as a whole. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on the Pioneer State Bank proposed rehabilitation. And we at Preservation Chicago are 100% in support of this development. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Miller. Are there any other members of the general public that would wish to speak on this item? Seeing none. The second item on our agenda today is the project at the Illinois Bell building located at 225 West Randolph Street. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see Preservation Chicago. Someone from Preservation Chicago.
Yes, it's Mary Lou Seidel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. My name is Mary Lou Seidel. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Preservation Chicago. I write in support of the proposed work on the Illinois Bell building. Although as a member of the public, I have to offer this testimony before I've seen the images of the planned work. While that leaves the public at a distinct disadvantage, I will do my best to speak to the value of this project. In the future, I am hopeful the Commission on Chicago Landmarks will post the presentation materials online before the meetings, along with the agenda and the minutes, so the public can easily access and assess the work and respond accordingly. We have great respect and trust in the Historic Preservation Division staff, but offering these materials for review prior to the meeting would go far toward making this commission's work more equitable and accessible. That aside, this great 1966 building designed by Halliburton Root is a remarkable asset to Chicago's architectural history and its formerly bustling commercial district. As our downtown area continues to struggle with recovering from the ongoing impact of the COVID pandemic, it is important to afford every reasonable opportunity to invest in these buildings to create a more thriving and sustainable downtown that pays great homage to its architectural history and skyscrapers. We look forward to seeing the renderings and plans, and we will reserve final comment until then. For now, this looks to be a good project for the Illinois Bell building, and we look forward to seeing our downtown neighbors get started on improvements to the building that respect its architectural integrity and place in Chicago's historic built environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll move to the third agenda item is for the project at 1050 West Wilson Avenue, located in the Uptown Square District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see this is Mary Lou again.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Max Chavez, Director of Research and Special Projects at Preservation Chicago. I just want to speak really quickly in support of the proposed rehabilitation of the Wilson Avenue Theater at 1050 West Wilson. This building is a contributing property within the Uptown Square district, completed in 1909 by architect Henry L. Ottenheimer. It is the oldest theater in this district, which was once a center for entertainment and nightlife, and it remained the area's only theater up until 1914. It eventually became a bank building, but it remained as one of the finest buildings in Uptown Square and a lasting testament to the quality of the design that once existed along Uptown's Wilson Avenue. Henry Ottenheimer was himself a notable Chicago architect, having trained in the offices of Adler and Sullivan, as well as having worked in partnership with Henry Schlacks early in Schlacks's career, notably during the construction of St. Martin de Tours Church in Inglewood. So you can see that the Wilson Avenue Theater has quite a lot of architectural significance in addition to its historical importance. So this is all to say that we're very excited to see a new life being granted to this significant building, especially as there's been a flurry of new development at this corner. That it'll be returned to its original use as a theater makes this proposal all the more exciting, as it'll surely become a terrific community asset. Really quickly, we do want to encourage a very comprehensive rehabilitation of this building that extends to the interiors as well. The lobby space of the Wilson Avenue Theater has retained quite a bit of its original neoclassical details, and we feel that keeping those would only add to the value of this new reuse. So this, combined with sensitive and comprehensive restoration of the theater's exterior elevation, will make for a great new use for this building that serves the Uptown neighborhood while also looking back towards a very important past. And we really look forward to seeing the space once this rehabilitation is complete. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. The fourth agenda item is for the project at 2222 South Michigan Avenue, located in the Mortar Road District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this one? Seeing none. The fifth agenda item is for the project at 2025 West Evergreen, located in the Wicker Park District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. The sixth agenda item is for the project at 2618 North Milwaukee, located in the Logan Square Boulevards District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I don't see any hands.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, there. Ward Miller again for the record with Preservation Chicago. I just want to emphasize that many of us as residents of Logan Square in that community, as well as members of Preservation Chicago, very much supported the Logan Square Boulevards District over a 5-year period, ending with their designation in about 2005. And this building, also known as the Grace's Furniture Building, fronts Logan Square. And in the 1960s, the building that was in front of it was demolished for the extension of what we now call the Blue Line to Jefferson Park, exposing this building's blank wall, if you will, to Logan Square, one of our city's most important public rooms and spaces on the boulevard system. And this surface was covered in billboards for many years. We worked very hard to get those billboards removed. This Logan Square Preservation, the community group, was also responsible with that, along with many community members and neighbors. And we are very supportive of this really unique idea of turning this building into a athletic center with a retail tenant, and a rethinking of that entire south wall, that blank wall that used to be covered with billboards, suddenly is going to be refashioned into a very sensitive facade that will overlook the Illinois Centennial Monument and Logan Square. And we find this to be so important. This building has had many fits and starts over probably a 15+ year period where we've seen numerous proposals. We're excited with this development team in the support of our community and also the support of Preservation Chicago that this project will move forward. And this is really an important building that will change the face of Logan Square proper as a public room. And we're also very intrigued by the fact that the Milwaukee Avenue facade and its small windows and its brickwork and terracotta will be preserved and restored per the original building design. And that's really unique, as we've seen so many proposals which expanded windows and rethought that whole facade in its entirety. So this is really an exciting project, and we want to again support this 100%. And so thank you for the opportunity to comment on this building that has been languishing for so long with so many violations and so many changes over time. I think we're heading in the right direction this time. So thank you for your support of this transformative project.
Thank you so much. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. The seventh agenda item is for the project at 3300 and 3304 South Giles, located in the Calumet Giles Prairie District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. Finally, the eighth agenda item is for the project at 3321 South Prairie Avenue, also located within the Calumet Giles Prairie District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I believe that's all. All the members wishing, all the members of the general public who have indicated that they wish to speak on agenda items. Therefore, this concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. We'll now go through the agenda. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting of October 6th, 2022. I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Yes, so moved, Commissioner Hughes.
Seconded, Commissioner Fair.
Moved by Commissioner Hughes, seconded by Commissioner Fair. Do the roll call. Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce says yes. Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
Yes. I'm a yes. The motion carries unanimously, and the minutes will be posted on the commission's website. And now here we go. We begin with our first project. 4000 West North Avenue, the Pioneer Trust and Savings Bank Building, Alderman Roberto Maldonado, 26th Ward, proposed rehabilitation of a 4-story former bank building for commercial and office uses as part of a larger development project. And I believe Joyce Ramos has the presentation.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The former Pioneer Trust and Savings Bank Building was designed by architect Carl Vitzum as a bank and office building with a gray granite base in the neoclassical revival style and was constructed in 1924. It is a prominent acre at the northwest corner of North and Pulaski Avenues. The bank building has sat vacant for almost 15 years. It is located in the Humboldt Park community area, and as part of the Invest Southwest initiative, the building will be renovated as part of a larger development that will be a cultural hub and community center. As part of the rehabilitation, the first floor banking hall will be retained to serve as an indoor market and event space, and the upper floors will be updated to serve as office spaces. The basement will be used as amenity spaces for the tenants. The significant historical and architectural features of the building are identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building, and the finished limestone return on the north elevation. In the following major historic interior spaces of the building hall, also to include the overall spatial volume, columns, historic decorative floor, wall, and ceiling surfaces and detailing, historic decorative lighting, and the historic teller stations and check writing tables. Please note that the ordinance does allow for flexibility for the removal, relocation, or modification of significant features for the reuse of the building. We'll start on the exterior. On the south elevation, the exterior doors at the primary entrance will be repaired. Additionally, the cast iron door surround will be cleaned and repainted. The non-historic canopy above these doors will be removed. The 2 existing fully glazed entry doors at the southwest location will be modified with one code compliant single leaf door and side light, and will match the historic doors in design, color, and finish. The historic transom above this door will be retained, repaired, and repainted. On the south On the south and east elevations, the multi-light steel sash windows have areas of corrosion at the sill, broken glass, failed sealant, and failed paint. They're in fair condition and are proposed to remain and be repaired. Fixed storm windows will also be installed on the interior side. And the metal security bars installed over the first floor windows are proposed to be removed. Staff recommends that scaled and dimension details showing the methods of repair for the existing windows should be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval. The existing non-historic windows will be replaced with new aluminum windows to match the historic window configurations as evidenced through historic photos, with a fixed window at the top and a pair of swinging casement windows below. And staff recommends for all new windows that large scale dimension drawings of the proposed windows to be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval, and all new glass to be clear vision. On the north elevation, the 4 exterior doors at the primary entrance will be repaired by installing insulated glazing and finished with a field applied coating to match the historic color and finish. And for all repaired doors, staff recommends that scaled and dimension details showing the methods of repair for the existing doors should be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval. On the north elevation, all existing non-historic windows will be removed and filled with brick and recessed 1 inch with the sills to remain. Okay. Like many banks in the 1920s, the Pioneer Trust and Savings Bank had specialized interiors that included prominent teller counters, marble check desk, and geometric terrazzo flooring. Upon entering the building through the main doors along North Avenue is a short marble staircase that leads up to the 2-story banking hall that contains the historic marble and bronze teller counters, marble check writing desks, and the geometric pattern terrazzo floor. The plastered walls are finished to resemble weathered stone, and the coffered ceiling spans the entire space. On the existing bridge that's within the South Apse and is shown here on the photo on the left, a new code compliant glass guardrail will be installed inbound of the historic metal guardrail that faces the north into the banking hall. For the first floor to be fully accessible, the secondary entrance circled here in the floor plan in red will be reconfigured with a new stair and elevator, which is highlighted here in yellow. It will be relocated to the north of its existing location. The architect had explored various locations for this elevator, but the proposed location provides access to all floors of the building while creating the least impact on the designated interior features. The new elevator enclosure will penetrate the coffered ceiling, and a 1-inch reveal, which is shown here in the detail on the lower left, will separate the elevator shaft and the coffered ceiling. Staff recommends approval for this alteration. A new bridge with glass guardrail circled here in the red dashed line will be constructed within the north apse to connect the east and west mezzanines. A portion of the historic coffered ceiling within the apse will need to be removed, and the width of this opening will be limited to 1 panel size. Looking straight at the north apse from the banking hall level, this opening would not be apparent. However, the openings are visible when viewing from an angle. Staff recommends approval of these openings that they do not significantly alter the character of the interior space, and the glass guardrails do not obscure views of the walls behind it. On the west elevation, the existing double hung windows will be removed. New punched openings will be made in the brick, and new windows are proposed to be installed on the 3rd and 4th floors. These windows will be visible from North Avenue above the roof of the neighboring buildings from the pedestrian level. The window openings are uncharacteristically large picture windows, and historic preservation staff recommends that the windows located on the second bay from the North Avenue elevation to be reduced to have a similar opening size and window pattern found on the windows on the south and east elevations. The windows on the west elevation located behind the recess section can remain as proposed since they will be minimally visible from the public way. To the north of the building are vacant parcels and an alley that is proposed to be vacated, which will be redeveloped into a multi-story building that includes parking, residential units, and shared community spaces. The new building will be located outside of the boundaries of the designated lot. It is not under the Commission's purview. The new structure appears to abut the historic bank building, but will not alter or obscure the finished return on the north elevation, which is considered a significant feature. The north elevation is a secondary elevation with unadorned common brick, and no punched openings will be provided to connect the interior of the historic building with a new structure, and is not considered an addition to the historic building. The staff recommends approval for the new scope of work with the conditions mentioned during the presentation and also listed here on this slide. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my presentation or for me, just let us know. The architect is also here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for staff before we go to the applicant or the owner? Commissioner Fair?
Thanks. You know, first and foremost, just really exciting project. I think in general, a lot of the details have been handled really well, and you know, just a lot of exciting things that are happening here in West Humboldt Park in the 26th Ward. So kudos on the efforts so far. I maybe have two questions. The first one being, I think it's related to the southwest corner of the building where the stair and elevators being reconstructed and with the roof access. I know the building as is has the existing penthouse at the roof, but from some of the historic photos, and even if you're out there now, I think it's only 8'6" or so is documented in the drawings that elevation is above the cornice. Didn't see an elevation for the new penthouse that's going to be constructed, and just wanted to see if there was an elevation known, and just making sure, you know, ideally if that's something from street view is hidden a little bit.
Sorry, yes, there are elevations that the architect did provide for these rooftop enclosures. The rooftop enclosures are just big enough for the stair and the elevator, and it's no larger than code required. So it, as you can tell, it would be visible from the street level, but since it's no larger than what's required by code, we do allow for these rooftop enclosures where they're proposed to be located.
Okay, I'll have to check back on that elevation, but thank you for that. The other point I made was more so of a comment, because I acknowledge and respect that it's out of, you know, our purview, but just acknowledging the significance and the prominence of this building along North Avenue and Pulaski, just for the forthcoming development that's happening to the north. Just keeping in mind, not only from, you know, along the east elevation, but then, you know, as you're approaching from Pulaski, just the relationship between the existing structure and the development that's forthcoming. I think, you know, what you all are setting up is a really nice language or dialogue of new and existing. And, you know, I think some thoughtfulness there could go a really long way, but otherwise really, really exciting work.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. Any other questions for the staff before we go to the owner? From commissioners, seeing none, let's hear, can we please hear from, is it Matt Mosher that's here, or the architect?
Hi, can everyone hear me? I can't tell if my
Yes,
camera.
we can hear you.
Perfect. Awesome. Hi, my name is Angelica Pletchnet. I'm an architect at JGMA. I first off want to just make sure to thank Joyce for all the work that she did in putting this together. It was a very thorough presentation. I know there's a lot more to this than just those few minutes that she went through, so I really appreciate that. You know, as you may know, this is a very important project for our firm, not only because it's an Invest Southwest initiative, but also because it will serve as the future home of JGMA as well. So we're really excited to bring life back into this building and share it once again with the West Humboldt Park community. We understand that so one of the things that we do want to bring up, we really understand the desire, especially on that western facade, to relate it back to the historic facades on the east and west. which is why we actually decreased the window size to the current extents, which matches the paired window sizes on the east and west historic facades. Obviously, there's multiple factors with dealing with this as a historic building. And the fact that, you know, it has a very deep floor plate and the historic windows are fairly small. So it does limit our ability for daylight. Actually, our original desire was actually to completely remove the brick infill and just make that one big, large picture window. So one of the things is really, we do worry that the windows on the west, if they start to, when they start to match too much to those east and south facades, that relationship is not going to be very visible, and it might look very foreign on that because of the contrasting patterning, but also because there is such a great relationship on those historic facades of the third and fourth floors. Really, it's about the connection between those two floors and creating this vertical bay with the pilasters and all that metal work. So we do worry a little bit with what that might start to look like if we start kind of pulling apart, you know, a few of those details on that western side. But obviously, we want to be very respectful, obviously, to the historic nature of the building. Otherwise, you know, we're really happy. We're really excited to move forward with this. I did want to bring up one thing with the question about the pop-up. So there is a historic limestone facade that is up there, and what we will be doing is we will be retaining that, but we will just be pushing it slightly forward. We will be keeping it as part of the design of the building. So when you look up there, it will still be that same pop-up that you know and love. And we pushed the elevator back further so you don't see it as much.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you all so much.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. It's more so of a comment. I commend this team for all of the meticulous work and effort that went into, you know, really restoring this historic beauty, right? And I do see the detail about the elevator, the careful placements of the windows. Like it's clear that this team truly thought through the process of the future life of this, and also you know, honoring its original use in architecture. And so I commend you guys, and I'm in full support of this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Any other questions from commissioners? Comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Joyce. I just wanted to respond to Angelica's comments about the windows. We can do a compromise for the windows. Let me go back to that elevation. Okay, so these are the windows that staff was recommending to kind of match the pattern and configuration of the windows on the south and east elevations. So these windows here are the ones that are here, or actually, sorry, here. What we could do is add just maybe a mullion just to kind of break it up the way that it's broken up on like the primary elevations. You can keep it, you know, the same size as proposed, but just put that vertical mullion just so it's not just this one large opening picture window. I don't know if that's something, Angelica, that you could consider, or if that.
I think that's definitely a really great consideration. I think for us, really the importance is, you know, making that a very functional and very bright and lively office space. So I think the addition of the mullion is definitely something we can definitely consider.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Any other points of discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, just want to say that this is a tremendous project, and I'm really excited to see it, be realized, and wonderful job. And it's exciting for the firm as well, for JGMA. And so congratulations, and on getting this far. And with that, If there's no further discussions, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. It sounds like we have a compromise on the one bay on the west elevation.
I was gonna say, I motion us to accept all staff recommendations, including the mullion adjustment to the window that was discussed today. I motion.
We have a motion. Commissioners, do we have a second?
I'll second it. It's great.
Seconded by Commissioner Rubin. We do the roll call. Commissioner Fair,
Yes.
Commissioner Fair is a yes. Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes, and I am certainly a yes. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations and good luck. We really want to see this happen. So very exciting. So the next project that on the agenda is 225 West Randolph in the 42nd Ward, Illinois Bell Building, Alderman Brenneman Riley. The proposed modifications to previously conditionally approved interior and exterior rehabilitation of an existing 33-story office building, including work to the surrounding plaza. And I believe Emily Barton has a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So this is the Illinois Bell Building, an individually designated landmark. The significant features for this are all exterior elevations, as well as the surrounding plaza and the ground floor lobby. The owners are taking advantage of the Class L real estate tax incentive as a part of their rehab project. In 2020, the committee reviewed and conditionally approved a proposal for the rehabilitation of the building, including work to the plaza and the designated ground floor lobby. The applicant is now proposing some changes to the scope of work and has submitted revised plans for PRC review and decision. Changes include lobby modifications, a new rooftop addition with roof deck to accommodate amenity space, replacement of the building's vision glass cladding, and replacement of the non-historic finishes in the plaza. And I will go through these changes now. So the original plaza paving has been removed sometime in the past, and the applicant is now proposing to replace the existing non-historic exposed aggregate concrete pavers with new pavers matching the color and texture of the historic based on photographs. The new paving is proposed to extend out to the property line, which is outlined in blue, you can see, whereas the original stopped at the outside edge of the historic planters. The applicant proposes this change to further incorporate the historic planters into the plaza. Because the applicant will be creating a custom blend of exposed aggregate concrete, they have not yet received a final sample. Staff recommends that when ready, the plaza sample be submitted to staff for approval. On the east end of the Randolph elevation is an original exterior mid-century styled metal screen lined in red. You can see on the map. This screen was installed to block views of the alley from the inside of the lobby. The applicant is proposing to replicate this screen, which is shown outlined in pink, for the south end of the Franklin elevation to alleviate the same condition. Because this new screen will not be penetrating or obscuring any historic features and is proposed for the same reason as the original, staff recommends approval as proposed. Volume and finishes in the main lobby have been substantially altered from their original appearance. The west end of the lobby has been partitioned into a separate restaurant space with non-historic partitions and finishes. The remaining lobby space along West Randolph was remodeled in 1989. The original black granite wall panels in the main lobby and elevator lobbies were replaced with marble and wood paneling, and new gray and black terrazzo flooring was installed. The lobby ceiling is a non-historic gypboard ceiling with floating gypboard ceilings in the elevator lobbies. The revised scope of work eliminates the stair insertion that was proposed in 2020 and includes replacement of the existing gray and black terrazzo flooring with new gray terrazzo with a polished finish to match the original as shown in historic photographs, with divider strips forming a grid that aligns with exterior structure and plaza pavers. The non-historic marble and wood wall panels in the main lobby and elevator lobbies will be removed and replaced with black granite to match the original based on historic photographs and using the existing black granite at the base of the exterior columns as a reference. The material proposed for removal is non-historic and the changes are based off of the original drawing set. Staff has reviewed replacement materials for this new flooring and wall coverings on site and recommend approval of the proposed stone sources, Cambrian black brushed granite and Amici Terrazzo sample AT2402. As before, the applicant proposes to remove the non-historic partitions and finishes in the restaurant space on the west side of the first floor, which I have shaded in blue, so that it is once again part of the main lobby. Consistent with the previously approved scope of work, the former restaurant space will be utilized for a food and beverage area with a new freestanding bar and movable seating, which is shown in yellow. To accommodate the restrooms and back of house functions for the food and beverage area, the revised scope of work includes a small enclosure at the southwest corner of the lobby. The revised plan also slightly expands the enclosed kitchen space west of the elevator core, with banquette seating along the west side of the enclosure, which is also shaded in yellow. Originally, the building featured a monolithic drop ceiling featuring a dramatic soffit at the building perimeter. The existing non-historic ceilings throughout the lobby and elevator lobbies will be removed and replaced with new drywall ceilings, returning to the original perimeter soffit and 12-foot height. Previously, the committee approved a new central building entrance along Randolph and a new canopy. The applicant is now proposing to replace the existing 7-foot tall revolving doors with new 9-foot tall revolving doors, largely matching the original design. Above these new doors, the applicant proposes a new curtain wall and mullions to match the existing in finish, reflectivity, color, and profile. As before, at the Randolph Street facing side, a new center entry is proposed to funnel office workers directly in and up. 2 new revolving doors matching the height and design of the other revolving doors are proposed to be inserted into the middle bay along the Randolph Street elevation. This entry has been designed to fit seamlessly into the historic storefront and will sit below a new mid-century inspired canopy, approximately 1 foot 4 inches thick, which is thinner and less intrusive than the previously approved 2.5 foot canopy. The canopy is proposed to be structurally attached to the building floor plates and will cantilever out, which will avoid the need to directly attach to the historic exterior. Building address signage and downlighting will be incorporated within this canopy. Staff recommends approval of all of these ground floor storefront changes with the condition that canopy material samples and details showing the profile and alignment of the new glazing and mullions be provided with the permit application. Just to describe the existing curtain wall for you, the building features alternating rows of tinted vision glass and an opaque transom glass or spandrel glass. As a part of the new scope, the applicant is proposing to replace the entirety of that tinted vision glass on the building to increase energy efficiency. They provided proposed and existing details, including the original details from the historic drawing set, in order to evaluate the impact of replacement. All exterior muntins are to remain, and no modifications to the existing curtain wall framing will be required. The corner detail will be an identical match to the as-built condition, and the applicant is proposing to retain and reuse the historic black arrowhead corner extrusions and zipper gaskets. There is a slight dimensional difference between the existing and proposed center mullion details. In the original, there is an approximately 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch cock joint connecting the glazing to the center mullion. In the proposed detail, the window bar and backer rod and seal are closer to 1¼ inches thick. A mock-up was conducted by staff to evaluate the visual differences between the original glazing and the new proposed replacement glazing. And staff determined that the 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch difference is not noticeable at all from the outside. Staff further found that the reflectivity, color, and finish of the new glass matched the original glazing very closely and recommend approval of the Alliance Glazing Technologies glass as proposed. The existing spandrel glass is proposed to be cleaned and retained in place. Final shop drawings shall be submitted to historic preservation staff prior to order and installation. The revised scope of work proposes to utilize a portion of level 31 for amenity space. To make this area functional for the proposed use, the existing louvers of the portion outlined in yellow will be removed and replaced with tinted glass. Because the louvers are recessed and are located at the top of the building, they read as a dark void. Therefore, staff recommends that the installation of tinted glazing will not be a noticeable change to the exterior of the building when viewed from pedestrian street level. A new metal and glass guardrail will also be installed along the parapet at level 31, which you can see shown in green, in the same general location and at the same general height as the railing that was shown in the original drawing set. To accommodate more new amenity space, the applicant is proposing a new rooftop addition with roof deck. The addition will primarily be 14 feet tall, shown in yellow, and will be located on the south and east sides of the existing roof penthouse, which is shown in blue. The addition will be set back approximately 13 feet from the south edge of the parapet and 16 feet from the east edge of the parapet. A roof deck will wrap the east and north sides of the penthouse, set back 8 feet from the east and 10 foot 6 inches from the north. The deck is proposed to be surrounded by glass guardrails 4 feet tall, which is shown in red, and a low maintenance 4-inch green roof tray is proposed to border the addition and deck on all sides. The applicant has provided a series of digital renderings illustrating the visibility of these new elements. In the first view, from the intersection of Washington and Franklin, you can see that the rooftop addition is not at all visible. From view 2, which is the intersection of Madison and Franklin, the rooftop addition is visible, but it's very, very minimal. And then in view 3, which is the intersection of Randolph and LaSalle looking north, the rooftop addition is again not at all visible. So staff recommends that based on these visibility studies and the setbacks proposed, the new rooftop elements will not be an adverse effect to the building, and all proposed rooftop materials shall be submitted with permit application. A statement of no opposition has been received from Alderman Riley's office, and I believe we have the development and architectural team here to speak if you have any questions for them or me.
Thank you, Emily, for the very clear presentation. Any questions for Emily before we go to the applicant? Commissioners? Seeing none. Let's hear from the developer. Can you please hear from Brian Bradeur?
I had a
Oh,
question.
sorry, Commissioner Hughes. Go ahead.
Sorry. My question was, was any of the work previously approved performed in 2020, or did everything stop, I'm assuming, because of the pandemic?
I think that the developer can clarify, but my understanding is that nothing was done. It all just kind of got stopped before the work could get started.
So Brian Bradeur speaking for the Ani Group. We're the owner, developer, and general contractor. Thank you for having us. To answer the first question, we actually closed on the building in 2020. In early 2021. Some demo permits have actually already been filed. And we've actually already begun elevator modernization work and a couple other things. So work has already been done on this project. The reason we're back here today is just for the alterations set forward in the presentation. And none of the historic scope has really been touched yet. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Fair.
Yeah, just maybe a quick request, in the spirit of, kind of building back in a way that's sensitive to, not only the lens of historic preservation, but also building back better. I was curious if, although there's no requirement by the city so far, but if any anti-bird collision, whether it be film or other applications were considered, at least, for the lower 40 feet of the building. I think given that to the west of this building, that lot's still open, I think that's a surface parking lot. This does present itself as potentially a location where there would be increased collisions. So anything that we could do to help out, our flying friends would be appreciated. And I think it could be done so in a way that doesn't detract from the overall appearance of the building. So just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. I'm not sure if Mr. Brodeur would like to comment on that.
We have not looked into that. It's our understanding that we cannot alter the visual appearance of the exterior glass.
Yeah, I think his point was that there could be some exploration that does not alter the appearance of the building dramatically. So maybe we can enter that into the staff recommendations when we issue our motion.
Yeah, and that's something that we'd be happy to retake a look at.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner or Mr. Brodeur, did you want to make any other general statements about the project?
No, just that we've already begun to work. We're happy to continue to invest in the city of Chicago, and we look forward to a successful project delivery in the next couple of years.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or points of discussion, commissioners?
I do have one question. In terms of the replacement glass, I think it's commendable to be able to replace, this historic modernist program with in-kind looking glass. But you mentioned that the new glass is significantly more energy efficient. I was just curious if you knew offhand how the new replacement glazing compares to the historic glass in terms of energy efficiency.
That's not something I have in front of me right now, but that's definitely something you can send over. And I will say we were replacing it for both safety concerns, because it's single unlaminated glass, single pane unlaminated glass, as well as for the energy efficiency as well.
Yeah, it's single pane glass right now. And so it's going to be changed to insulated. So it's going to be pretty dramatic, I think.
It sounds like it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. With that, I think we have another revised, modified motion to adopt the staff recommendation with the addition of a recommendation to explore some sort of bird protection into the glass system, some exploration of that. So that is the motion. Do we have, who's making that motion? Commissioner Fair?
I'd make that motion with the staff recommendation as well as the recommendation on the anti-bird collision application.
Great. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
You have a second, Commissioner Hughes.
Commissioner Hughes has seconded. Let's do the roll call. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes. Commissioner Rubin?
It's a yes.
Yes, and I am a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing the project come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
1050 West Wilson is the next project. 46th Ward, Uptown Square District. Alderman James Kappelman. The proposed rehabilitation of a historic theater into a new theater, including limestone repairs, facade repairs, new storefront and entrance, new blade sign, and new marquee. And Joyce Ramos has the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Wilson Avenue Theater was erected in 1909 and was designed by architect Henry Ottenheimer in the classical revival style. It was the oldest theater in the district and was converted into a bank in the 1920s. After years of being used as a commercial space, the building will be redeveloped back into a theater as the new home of the Double Door Theater. This is a contributing building in the Uptown Square District located at the very eastern boundary on Wilson, just east of Broadway. And the period of significance of the district dates from 1901 to 1940. The significant features of the district include all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the district buildings visible from the public right of way. The building's primary street elevation faces Wilson Avenue and is clad with limestone. And the limestone is proposed to be patched and repaired, and the new storefront and entrance will be installed in the existing arch opening. And based on historic images, the building originally had decorative limestone facade with a large canopy that covered the entrance. And the facade also had been modified during the period of significance to include an arched window opening on the second floor. Historic preservation staff recommends approval for the replacement of the existing non-historic arched storefront system, an entrance door within the historic opening, and all new glass to be clear vision glass. Large-scale dimension drawings of the proposed storefront and doors shall be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval, and all new glass to be clear vision. The applicant is proposing to install a 17-foot tall new blade sign with halo-lit letters and incandescent bulbs. The design is based on the original double door sign that was installed on the venue in Wicker Park. It will be supported by steel tubes that are attached to the new storefront system. And based on historic images, a historic blade sign was hung off the limestone facade in 1910 when the building was the Vaudeville Theater. Historic photos show a large clock and blade signs that project off the face of the front facade as well. And historic preservation staff recommends approval of the proposed double door blade sign to be installed in the same location, since there is historic precedence for signage that projects off the face of the facade. Additionally, the attachment locations will not impact any historic material. The applicant is also proposing to install a new 31-foot 6-inch wide by 9-foot deep and 3-foot 5-inch tall marquee that projects over the entrance. The width of the marquee is based on the historic canopy that was installed on the building when it was the Vaudeville Theater, which spanned between the inset center section of the facade located between the projecting corners of the building. And instead of tiebacks used on the historic marquee, the proposed marquee will be supported by interior beams and floor assemblies. The three elevations of the marquee will incorporate white backlit signs with individual black letters, which will be changed which will be changed based on the scheduled events of the venue. The underside of the marquee is proposed to be illuminated with surface-mounted socket-style light fixtures attached to a decorative tin ceiling. The overall form, width, and projection of the proposed new marquee is similar to the historic canopy that was installed on the building in the 1910s, and a historic photo shows that marquee signs were later added to the top of the canopy. Staff recommends that installing a marquee on this facade is appropriate. However, the proposed overall height is not proportional to the building. There are other theaters within the district that have large marquee signs, and the size of these signs are consistent with the size of the buildings. Staff recommends to reduce the overall proposed height of 3'5" to 2'6" to be more in keeping with the character and scale of the building. Scaled and dimensioned section details as well as methods of attachment shall be submitted for review and approval with the permit application. And each new sign shall be submitted under separate permit applications and should include an accurate elevation, section, and attachment drawings with sign dimensions, existing conditions shown, and materials and illumination identified. Finally, staff recommends approval for this new scope of work with the conditions mentioned during this presentation and also listed here on this slide. Alderman Kappelman has reviewed the proposal and submitted a letter of support. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my presentation or for the architect and owner who are here today, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we hear from the applicant, commissioners? Seeing none. Let's hear from the architects. Is it Matt Demmer? See a hand raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Matt Demers at Barker Nestor Architects. I would like to thank, first of all, Joyce Ramos for her comments going back more than a year on this project. And also thank you, Max Chavez, for your words of support for the changes on the exterior as well. I think the only thing that we would like to discuss further would be the recommendation number 3 on the height and the character of the marquee. Because right now, both the width and the height of the marquee is being driven by its internal structure, having to cantilever out of the internal structure of the building instead of touching other portions of the facade, which was recommended by the structural engineer as requiring the least amount of demo of the existing limestone. And right now, the structure that's needed to cantilever this is 24 inches deep itself. And then, of course, we have to have sloping for drainage, et cetera, et cetera. And so getting it under 3 feet would be very, very difficult if we were going to cantilever it and reduce the amount of demolition for installation. So we were wondering if maybe there was another way to address the character and the proportions of this marquee and maybe make it not just a big black box that's as minimal as possible, but maybe add some articulation on the top and bottom, inset the signage a little bit and sort of soften the proportions and keep the depth at least 3 feet so that we can continue to cantilever, if that might be amenable.
Great, thank you, Mr. Demir. Any questions, commissioners? I guess I was just curious. So you are, it sounds like you're already looking at potential 6-inch compromise because it's 42 right now, right? And you're saying that maybe you'd go down to 36?
Yes, what we can do, if you look on the detail on the top left corner there, is right now we have that, it's like a lighting coffer underneath. That's about 6 inches. So we could add recessed lighting underneath instead, and we can shave off 6 inches there. But everything else sort of on top of the marquee and then the steel that you see inside would be required in order for this to work and resist its wind loads, snow and water loads, et cetera. So 2'6" is kind of a tall order for the overall depth. I don't know that we can get sufficient drainage, for example, at 2'6".
Okay, and I just had 2 more questions real quick. The total cantilever is, oh, I see it there.
It's 9 feet.
9 feet, and then the depth is driven by the existing structure and not by ability to stack signs. Is that correct? Or is it both?
Correct. Yeah. The depth of the marquee and actually its width, you know, this big hunkin' theater marquee was proposed by the structural engineer to reduce demo, which we were kind of surprised, but we said, yeah, let's do it. We need a marquee. And it's being entirely driven by inserting 2 steel beams into this facade and on either side and tying into both new and existing and new reinforced structure on either side of the historic lobby.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, thank you. My question was actually about the placement of the marquee height-wise. As I'm looking at the elevations, there doesn't seem to be an alignment with where the base of the marquee lands against the grid on either side of that facade. But in this photo, it does look like there's an alignment with this kind of second horizontal line above the window, which is ideal, I think, is for there to be an alignment with the existing kind of pattern on the wall. Can you guys speak to that a little bit? Because that's not what's appearing in the drawings.
Correct. So that the lower level, the elevation of the bottom of the marquee, there is a little bit of design wiggle room there, so we can align it. And you can see in the renderings are made, you know, accurately to the same dimensions as the drawings. But for whatever reason, when you're standing and looking at the building, it does appear to line up. But you are right. When we draw it in elevation, it doesn't appear to. But we can align that existing sort of rusticated line on the limestone to the bottom of the marquee.
That would be great. That would
We
be
agree.
great. And I think, that's the meticulous architects in us. So I think we're aligned there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Fair?
Yeah, just a quick question. Had it been explored if reducing the cantilever, I think you mentioned it was 9 feet, but if that would make that structure a little more capable of slimming down to meet the commission's hopes?
I would have to discuss that with the structural engineer and see how much shorter it would get. My understanding is that in order to get the depth of the beams, so, somewhat smaller than they already are, we might have to reduce it by as much as 50%, maybe 40%. And then its width starts to become a problem. The dimensions of the marquee as a unit start to become strange at that point, I think. It looks a little more like a sort of an appendage or an eyebrow over the door than as a marquee.
Yeah, I agree. You want to, in spirit, keep that as a, marquee and, give it some good coverage, but that might be worth exploring to see if there's any happy medium.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, has the engineer explored additional cable support similar to what's in the historic photos?
Actually, yes. So the renovation from the Vaudeville Theater to the bank saw them rip out everything that's underneath the historic pediment, basically where those tiebacks connect to the top part of the facade. The bank ripped all of that out and rebuilt their own facade. And then sometime in the late 70s, haven't been able to find a permit for it, but the bank, a subsequent bank, ripped out the bank facade and then reclad a lot of the heavy ornament with new limestone in front of whatever's remaining there. And so the short of it is we don't know what's back there to tie into. And that's why the structural engineer didn't want to use tiebacks, because of the amount of demolition that would be required for exploratory, and then also possibly demolition for installation of new structure once we even determine what existing conditions are. The cantilever was seen as being an opportunity to avoid all those questions and, be able to really drive the design intent with as little disruption as possible.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions?
This is Joyce. Just to
Oh, yeah,
follow
sure.
up on all the commissioners' comments, as well as Matt's comments about, reducing the height by 6 inches and setting the light fixtures on the bottom. Another thing that we can consider is maybe adding like a reveal that's similar to what's shown in the historic photo here, and maybe lighten up this color so it's not such a stark black, and it can kind of make this design look a little lighter and thinner, and not so chunky, I guess.
Yes, we completely agree. We feel that there's almost a missed opportunity for articulating the marquee, even at its current dimensions, that I don't think is doing enough justice to the size as it's proposed. So we agree. The reveals, the articulation on the top and the bottom can really soften this design.
Great. Yeah, would there be like more horizontality in there? Because those are manual letters, right? Those are just, or are those digital?
Well, we do have 2 alternates. The issue with the LED alternate signage is that it would also require a zoning variance for signage. So eventually the signage vendor will have to cross that bridge. But what we're proposing here is, if LED is a no-go and doesn't end up happening, these are the traditional manual black letters. These are not shown as the LED.
This property is actually included in a PD, so you would not be able to get a variance on the square footage of digital signs, which I think the maximum is 64 square feet. So that is like the max digital signs that you could have on this building.
Interesting.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll make sure that the owner is aware of that. Thank you.
All right. Thank
I
you.
have one last question.
Oh, Commissioner Fair.
And this one may be for Joyce. Is the intent for reducing the overall height of the marquee structure? Is it to align it better with some of the datums, either at the limestone or the the mullions beyond, or is it really a desire to try to get the scale down to be more appropriate to some of the architecture?
Yeah, it's more the scale and the portions of the building. I mean, this is a smaller theater compared to the other theaters within the district. So we just wanted to keep the character of this marquee, within proportions of this building.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Points of discussion? Seeing none, I think we have another slight modification on the staff recommendation, and includes that we're looking for some further alignment of the marquee to adjacent limestone detailing. All right, potentially lowering it. And Commissioner Hughes, help me out if you want to clarify that.
Yes. Alignment with the horizontal elements of the limestone on either side.
Okay. And we're also just looking to just continue to explore the depth and potential make a modification to the profile and further detailing of the marquee, which is already sort of the recommendation. Does anyone want to make a motion to that?
So moved, Commissioner Ponce, to explore, the horizontal lines of the marquee to match with the adjacent properties.
Okay, Commissioner Ponce has made a motion. Do we have a second?
In addition to her motion about the heights, also the materiality to be further explored with our staff. I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hughes to further explore with the staff. And we'll do the roll call. So Commissioner Fair?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm a yes. And the motion carries unanimously. It's a really nice project, and good luck. We look forward to seeing it complete.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Our fourth item on the agenda is 2222 South Michigan in the 3rd Ward, Mortar Road District, Alderman Pat Dowell. It's the proposed exterior and interior alterations, including new entrance and rooftop addition with new rooftop decks as part of a new mixed-use building. And Emily Barton has a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So the subject property is the historic Hudson Motors showroom located mid-block in between Michigan and Wabash, south of Cermak Road. This is moving forward as a planned development and is scheduled to appear at the November Plan Commission meeting. This building is contributing within the Motor Road District, and the significant features are elevations and roof lines visible from the public rights of way. The proposed project involves the full interior and exterior rehabilitation of the historic Hudson showroom building. The building will be mixed use in programming, including a restaurant on the 1st floor, speakeasy bar in the basement, and a rooftop entertainment space. The other floors will be residential multifamily housing and micro-unit hotel rooms. The applicant proposes window restoration of all of the historic single-hung wooden windows on the eastern facade, which is the main facade facing Michigan Avenue. To meet code requirements, the applicant proposes to add another entrance on the northern side of the facade, shaded in red. This will be recessed like the main entry and will be much simpler in design to not be confused as a historic feature and to not detract from the historic architecture surrounding it. Staff recommends that this design and location will not have an adverse impact on the building. The applicant proposes to restore the remainder of the cast iron storefronts, including the decorative entry frame on the main central entrance. The east elevation is clad entirely with white flecked terracotta. There are several condition issues present, and the applicant proposes to repair, repoint, and clean the historic facade. The historic clay tile roof is also prepared to be restored. Because the building spans an entire city block, there are two street-facing elevations, and the western Wabash elevation is much plainer in design with brick cladding, a simplified entry, and loading doors. On this elevation, the existing steel windows are in very poor condition, and the applicant proposes to replace them with new steel windows closely matching the original profiles and operation. The ground floor has been substantially modified in the past, and there are currently two overhead garage doors with glazing above and two entry doors, one on each end of the facade. The applicant proposes removing all of the doors as well as the non-original brick infill on the first floor. The existing rear fire escape is proposed for removal, and new windows will be inserted at its location on the second and third floors to align with the historic masonry openings. The leftmost garage door will be replaced by a new storefront and entrance, and the non-historic infill will be replaced with either new glazing or new masonry infill to match the existing brick. The non-historic man doors will be replaced with new doors and glazing. On the north elevation, in order to accommodate light and vent requirements, the applicant is proposing to remove a central portion of the second and third floors, approximately 215 feet in length, on the side common brick elevation. This removal will be located approximately 111 feet from the front facade and will be 20 feet deep. Because this elevation is very minimally visible from the public rights of way, staff recommends that this will not exceed or even near the 40% threshold requiring CCL and City Council review. The south elevation is largely not visible from the public rights of way, and the applicant proposes to remove and to replace and insert approximately 28 windows. So the applicant is proposing a new one-story metal panel rooftop addition to house amenity space, which you can see shaded in orange. It will be set back 86 feet 8 inches from the outer parapet of the primary eastern facade on Michigan, and approximately 28 feet from the outer parapet wall of the western facade against Wabash. The addition will be 16 foot 6 inches tall, which is taller than the existing floor heights, which range from 10 to 12 feet. But because of its substantial setback, staff recommends that this will not have an adverse impact on the building or district. A new roof and pool deck on the eastern end of the roof is also proposed. The approximately 41 by 70 foot pool deck will be 2 foot 8 inches in height, with a railing an additional 4 feet high at its tallest point. This deck will be set back 18 inches from the inner parapet wall of the eastern facade. A 13 foot 7 inch tall trellis shown in yellow between the pool deck and the addition is proposed to be set back approximately 63 feet 4 inches, and a 42 inch high glass rail is proposed around the perimeter of the roof deck as a whole, set back 5 feet from the inner parapet of the front and sides, and 3 feet from the rear Wabash elevation. The applicant has provided digital renderings to evaluate the visibility of the proposed rooftop elements. You can see that there is very minimal visibility of only the glass railing on the side elevation, standing on Wabash looking south. Standing on one back. Oh, yeah, thank you. Standing on Wabash looking north, there is no visibility of any of the proposed rooftop elements. There is minimal visibility of the pool deck, roof trellis, and addition from the northeast corner of Michigan and Cermak looking south. However, it is from a great enough distance that it is not clear which building the addition is located on. There is no visibility of any rooftop elements on Michigan looking south. And there is, again, just minimal visibility of the glass railings from south of the building on Michigan looking towards the north. Staff recommends that due to the minimal visibility from limited vantage points surrounding the building, the proposed addition, pool deck, and railings will not have an adverse impact on the building. Staff further recommends that samples of the rooftop cladding material should be submitted with the permit application. I'm here if you have any questions, as are members of the development, architectural team, and their attorney.
Thanks so much, Emily. Any questions for Emily, commissioners? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant and owner representatives. Can we please hear from Katie Yankee Dale?
Great. Thanks. Good afternoon. For the record, Katie Yankee Dale from DLA Piper. You're fine. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you this afternoon. Like staff mentioned, we have representatives from ownership and the applicant group, as well as the architect here, but we just really appreciate staff's very detailed, as you can see, review of this project. And with that, I will let either Israel or Tibor say a couple words. They represent ownership this afternoon, and then we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to thank everyone for their time this afternoon. You know, this project is coming through the pandemic. It's been something that we've been working very hard on to bring to life, to bring this really dynamic entertainment and really vital ecosystem to the South Loop. And we're just looking forward to the support of the commission. In addition, we're thankful to our alderman, Pat Dowell, for her support that she's provided, along with the Near South Planning Board that have also provided support for us on the project as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none. Any points of discussion? Seeing none. Incredible building, really ambitious, plans to bring it back to life, but very exciting. And with that, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendations. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Fair.
So moved by Commissioner Fair. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Ponce.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Hughes?
I'm a yes.
Yes. Commissioner Hughes is a yes, and Commissioner Rubin?
I'm also a yes.
Yes, and I'm a yes. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 2025 West Evergreen, the first ward, the Wicker Park District. Alderman Daniel Espada, proposed construction of a 2-story rear addition, a 1-story side addition, and construction of a new 1-story rear brick garage. And I'd like to call on Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me get this loaded up here. Okay. Right. So the subject property is a 2-story brick and stone single-family home built in the Second Empire style in the 1870s. It is located on a lot that is 25 feet wide by 150 feet deep. The building has a front yard setback of 18'7", an east side yard setback of 2'10", and no west side yard setback. The applicant also owns the vacant lot located immediately to the west and is proposing to construct a 1-story addition shown here in yellow that projects into the lot. The side addition is approximately 10 feet wide and 16'9" deep and will be attached to the proposed 2-story rear addition shown here in blue that will be located completely behind the historic building. The existing solid wood fence in the front of the yard is also proposed to be removed and replaced with a new 5-foot tall ornamental fence, which you can see in this sketch. The side addition is proposed to be set back approximately 55 feet from the front facade. It is 16 feet above grade in height with a flat roof, and is proposed to be clad with fiber cement paneling with a brick base to match the brick on the historic building. The facade will have large punched openings infilled with divided light windows. And the first floor deck and railing is located behind the side addition, but will be completely screened from view. In contrast to a more solid masonry addition, a mostly glazed enclosure may be seen as an ancillary structure to the main residence. In June of 2020, the committee approved a proposal for a side yard addition at 2115 West Evergreen, which was a similar situated at the rear of the historic building with a single-story addition projecting in the side yard. And also in July of 2007, the committee approved a proposal for a side yard addition at 1646 North Levitt, which was similarly situated on a double lot, and staff recommends that the proposed side addition will not adversely affect the architectural character of the building or the district. The applicant is also proposing to demolish an existing non-historic one-story frame garage at the rear and replace it with a new one-story three-car masonry garage with alley access. It will be clad with brick to match the historic home. The district does contain a number of properties that have historic rear structures, such as coach houses or garages, that embody the same historic architectural characteristics that define the district. And a portion of this proposed new garage will be visible in the west side yard. But staff recommends that the materials and details are compatible with the historic character of the district and recommends approval as proposed. In conclusion, the side addition connects only to the new rear addition and its contemporary design, utilizing large divided light windows and fiber cement paneling. And since these additions are located at the rear of the home and do not connect to the historic building on elevations that are visible from the public way, staff recommends that the massing and materials be approved as submitted. The Wicker Park Committee has reviewed the project and submitted a letter of support. The architect is also here. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Commissioners, any questions for Joyce or staff? Seeing none, maybe we can hear from the architect. Is it Molly Code?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Joyce, for all your hard work. I'm the architect, and I also happen to be the owner of this property along with my husband. The home is so unique in that it is a historic home adjacent to a large open lot, which makes it much more prominent than it normally would be. We currently live in the neighborhood in a landmarked home, and we are excited to move here when it's complete. It's really a dream for us to renovate this. And as Joyce mentioned, we have the support of the Wicker Park Committee and the aldermen. And we really, we're thrilled to make this our home and to contribute positively to the neighborhood. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thanks so much. Commissioners, any questions for the owner and architect? Seeing none. Any points of discussion? Seeing none. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendations for the project. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Ponce.
Commissioner Ponce has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Rubin.
Seconded by Commissioner Rubin. And we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Fair.
Yes.
Yes. And Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes, yes, and I'm a yes as well. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Well done. Nice project, nice drawings, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 6 of 8, 2618 North Milwaukee, Logan Square Boulevard District, 35th Ward, Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, and would like to call on Emily Barton for the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. So this building is the 5-story building at 2616 to 18 North Milwaukee, built in 1914 as a storage warehouse and located just north of Logan Square Park. This property has gone through many project proposals, but none have moved forward, and thus the building has sat vacant for decades. The applicant is proposing to modify a previously approved plan for the existing vacant building from a hotel use to a gym use. The project will be largely retaining the existing 5-story building, which was preliminarily found to be non-contributing by the committee in 2020. There will still be elements of new construction, including a new stair and elevator core at the rear of the building and a new 6th floor rooftop addition and deck, both of which were included in the original proposal. The majority of the proposed changes from the 2020 submission are on the south facade. This elevation is currently just steel structural frame with plywood infill after the facade was demolished in early 2017 for being imminently dangerous and hazardous. The previously approved proposal called for the rebuilding of this wall with new face brick to match the front facade and the insertion of new fixed and operable windows. This new scheme proposes 28 masonry openings, approximately 7 feet tall by 14 feet across. The windows are fixed and are 7 bays across, matching the existing structural grid, and are primarily inspired by Chicago-style windows. Metal panels act as spandrels, separating each floor, and feature some detailing to appear more compatible with the district. The ground level storefront design has not changed from the 2020 approval. The previous hospitality iteration called for the insertion of new windows on the Milwaukee Avenue facade. This is no longer being proposed, and the 8 small windows are to be retained in their current configuration. Similarly to the south facade, the storefront design has not changed at the ground level, and the applicant proposes to restore the terracotta surround. Unlike the earlier design, this time the applicant is proposing to restore the original terracotta bordering the facade, as you can see in that historic photograph, and they've also added a new, more substantial terracotta cornice. The Grace's Furniture sign that currently exists on the Milwaukee Avenue elevation of the building is not being reviewed at this time. Discussions are ongoing regarding signage with other building departments, including zoning and business affairs and consumer protection. And when ready, any proposed signage work will be reviewed by historic preservation staff. The rooftop addition is substantially the same as what was approved in 2020, and the proposed overall height of 79 feet 4 inches has not changed. The addition is now proposed to be clad in metal paneling and will feature the same rooftop deck as previous. Like before, the applicant is still proposing to retain the bottom portion of the existing billboard structure on the building to be used as a roof trellis. Staff recommends the addition finish shall be dark and non-reflective, and a sample shall be provided to historic preservation staff with the permit application. Therefore, staff recommends approval with the conditions that I've gone through. Logan Square Preservation and Alderman Ramirez Rosa's office have reviewed the proposed plans. No written comments were received yet. And I believe we have the applicant's attorney, represents from ownership, and architects here if you have questions for them or myself.
Thank you so much, Emily. Any questions for Emily? Commissioners, I see one. Commissioner Fair.
Thanks. Just really wanting to chime in to echo staff recommendation number 4, just with the aluminum paneling recommendation to have the dark non-reflective finish. I think that was the first thing in this that stood out. And I think, finding something that ties back to the Chicago style windows, which I think was a really nice and elegantly done change from the 2020 proposal. It will really help make this really appear as a really sophisticated and well done building. Kudos to the team for the additional work at the cornice with the terracotta. I think that's really going to help that particular facade really sing and stand out. So just wanted to emphasize that, but otherwise great work.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. Any Commissioner Hughes?
My question, which I'm sure is on all of our minds, what's happening to the famous furniture sign?
Yeah, so that is still kind of pending based on decisions by other departments, really, for the most part. I think previous proposals in the past have aimed to retain it. From a staff perspective, we are happy either way. But I know that the team is interested in trying to keep it, as well as the Alderman's office. It's just a matter of being able to figure out how that will work with zoning and business affairs and consumer protection.
Okay, well, this commissioner definitely agrees with the other parties on wanting to retain it somehow, so whether it's here or reserved somewhere at another site.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, I agree. I just want to say I agree and concur with the comments of Commissioner Fair with recommendation number 4. And I don't know if I missed it in our packet, but in this presentation, on this elevation, it seemed like the previous proposal had some type of brick cladding on the top, and I was just curious why that was removed. It seemed to, who was in the previous images in this presentation from, what was it, 20?
Can you go back, Emily?
2020.
Let me go to the image.
Yeah, and I think I'll send that question to the architecture and development team.
Yeah, the top portion of it. The 2020 approval. I'm just curious as to how.
I can wait.
Matt, would you like to take that one?
Sure. There are probably ultimately a couple reasons, but the main driving factor was.
Could you please introduce yourself and
I apologize. Yeah, Matt Cooperts from K2 Studio. We worked on the original. We're working on the current proposal in front of you. And the process it went through again, local, in this case, LSP, Logan Square Preservation, landmarks and so on. And in that process, one of the requests was to take the cornice line that sat atop the 5th floor and to emphasize it and have it run the length of the building, that main south elevation. And effectively the 6th floor, which is reminiscent of the extent, I apologize about the noise, by the way, if you can hear it, but the 6th floor, which is basically reminiscent of the elevator overruns and everything, then stay sort of separate in terms of its articulation. So you get the strong cornice line on top of the 5th floor, and then the 6th addition sort of is a piece unto itself.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
thank you. Commissioner, any other questions? Commissioner Hughes.
Did we consider a design where the bottom panel of the cornice wraps around to be on this sort of prominent window facade as well? I think that question is for you, Matt.
Architect.
I can tackle that. A couple things. One would be that if it ran, if I understood right, along the south main elevation there, the brick would then come up and terminate into that cornice. We really don't have room in terms of window heights and everything else to really enable then any brick transition of the pier. So, and I think that in itself would need review and might at least in itself be slightly awkward, but more to the point, it would also trigger re-reviews with LSP and so on, I would imagine. This is what in large part, they kind of were hand in hand in driving the things that they were looking for, such as the spandrel panel and so on. So it's possible, being put on the spot, I'd say, I think it may proportionally read weird with the vertical brick columns because we won't have any brick upper sort of horizontal cornice line unto itself. The limestone will take the whole height, if I understood what your question was.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm also, I don't know, it's reading disjointed a little bit to me with that additional spandrel panel on one side and not the other sides versus your 2020 proposal that kind of had the same profile wrapping all the way around. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think I follow. And the spandrel you're talking about, of course, is the metal panel between the glass, correct? Just to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
No, sorry, I'm talking about the panel that's the bottom panel of the cornice.
You're talking about the top of the building, right?
Yes.
and the stone on the south elevation comes further down, and you're saying you'd like, maybe you're interested in seeing it wrap?
Yeah, I was not, what am I trying to say?
Just so you know,
I'm
that-
saying the cohesion of whichever design, whether it's the simple top of the cornice, which you guys have in the 2020 proposal wrapping around, or the entire profile, which you have on, I'm not even sure which facade this is, but the entire profile wrapping or just the top. It seems odd that one portion of the cornice is like fully built out and the other only has this top portion wrapping.
Yeah. I could maybe just wanted to chime in on, Commissioner Hughes' point. It's interesting. I think if you look at the elevations of that facade, in particular, it may be something that is addressed with some of the masonry work to try to create a datum along that facade. Right now you've got that cornice that's, along the main facade, but it ends there at the corner, which is, I think something that's typical, but it would be nice to, have an element that does carry that line forward other than just, where the storefront walls begin. I think over where, and forgive me, I don't have all my bearings straight on this one, but further to what will be the left side of this image, you start to see there's some datum lines and the masonry that are set up there. You may speak to some of the joining, but that may be an opportunity to carry that across and tie that over to the cornice that's there. So, something to web the two that are, currently doing two different things, but could have a little bit of a better relationship there.
This is Dave Deuter with Blue Star Properties, the developer and general contractor. Matt, I'm going to take a stab at trying to kind of address where we've been on this. So correct me if I'm wrong with anything, please. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Okay, what I'm going to call the top foot or so of the cornice on both the Milwaukee facing side of the building and the square facing or south side of the building. We're effectively trying to look at that element as the same carrying through on both elevations. Everything that falls below that kind of top 12 inches or so, we really have two starkly different elevations here. One has a lot of original terracotta that we're trying to save and trying to create a cornice that is not there to date, but it wasn't there originally a couple of years ago, but was there originally when the building was built, that is going to drop down to effectively approximately 4.5 or 5 feet, almost to the top of line of the window head that is on the opposite elevation. So we were trying to do something that was very fitting, looking at the Milwaukee facing facade for the one elevation, and then trying to do something that was a nod and kind of, turned the corner, clearly doing something different because nothing exists there right now, but also try and have some banding that is consistent with even the columns that are created in between bays up at the top above the window head to keep that masonry proportionality the same as the columns, thus not being able to carry the entire cornice down 4.5, 5 feet or so on the other elevation as well. So that was what was primarily driving the conversations that we had back and forth with Logan Square Preservation Group. Logan Square Preservation Group even had brought in one of their members who was also an architect who was opining on this as well. And this really seemed to kind of strike a balance between, having, some, as you guys have all noted, some kind of continuation of that front facade, yet also deal with some of the limitations that we have on kind of the overall facade being, starkly different as well. So I don't know if that kind of narrative kind of speaks to kind of our mindset in trying to appease all parties here to date. But it has been quite a juggle at times trying to get to the right answer here. Obviously, architecture is always just a subjective thing, but we appreciate your comments while also trying to kind of understand what we've kind of gone through with the rest of the group to date. Matt,
No,
did I leave
if I
anything
can-
out?
I was just going to say, if I can respond, thank you for that detailed explanation of your thought process. And I do see that you guys are approaching the facade that's, is this the Milwaukee side, Emily? Yes. So you guys are approaching sorry, I'm looking at the map now. You guys are approaching the Milwaukee side with sort of a minimally invasive approach, which is different from your 2020 proposal. And so I can appreciate that you've added this ornamentation around the edges to kind of help still nod to some of the kind of original historic character it had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes, Commissioner Fair. Thank you, Mr. Duder. Any other questions? I really like the scheme, the revision. I think it's really well done, and that you're completely bringing back the south elevation. And it looks like a very natural way to turn the corner, really respecting the old facade, and trying with the new facade being modern, but yet almost looking like it was there all the time. I think it's really well done. So with that, any other points of discussion, commissioners? Seeing none. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Hughes.
Moved by Commissioner Hughes. Do we have a second?
Seconded, Commissioner Fair.
Commissioner Fair seconds, and do the roll call. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes. Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. Congratulations, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, the seventh? Yeah. Seventh item on the agenda is 3300 and 3304 South Giles, I think. Fourth Ward, Calumet Giles Prairie District, Alderman Sophia King proposed two new two-story single-family residences and detached two-car garages. And Joyce Ramos has the presentation. Joyce, if you're talking, you may be on mute.
Okay, let's try that again. Thanks. Just a little background information on the site. In 2005, the Permit Review Committee reviewed and conditionally approved a development on the former Glass Globe Factory site in the northernmost portion of the block located just south of 33rd between Prairie and Giles that included an overall plan for 18 new buildings. The multi-unit development included a mixture of single-family residences, attached row houses, and 3-unit and 6-unit condominium buildings. Of the 18 new buildings approved in 2005, 5 have been constructed. And then also just wanted to mention that the significant features in the Calumet Giles Prairie District are all elevations visible from the public right-of-way, including roof lines. In 2018, 2 5-unit townhouse buildings were proposed on 227 to 235 East 33rd and 237 to 245 East 33rd. And these were reviewed and conditionally approved by the Permit Review Committee. The townhouses located at 237 to 245 were constructed. So these townhouses here. However, according to the developer, they were difficult to market and sell. So while all the units were ultimately sold, the project was not financially successful. Therefore, the developer has decided to change the previously conditionally approved townhouses on 227 to 235 East 33rd, which are located here, and which is the subject site for this presentation here, to 2 single-family residences. And this site is now referred to as 3300 and 3304 South Giles. Okay, so I'll talk about these 2 buildings separately. The proposed 2-story masonry building at 3300 South Giles is 24 feet in width and 54 feet in length with a front yard setback of 14'11". And the proposed 2-story masonry building at 3304 South Giles is 19'6" in width and 60'8" in length with a front yard setback of 14'11". The building proposed at 3300 South Giles features a single and gang double hung windows with stone lintels and sills. A limestone cornice with a slight projection is proposed to cap the building. The front elevation has a raised entry with a stoop height of 5'6" above grade, and the facade is clad in modular size face brick. The side and rear elevations will also be clad in the same brick, and the proposed brick is from Brickcraft in the twilight color and the stone detailing, which also matches the typical colors and textures found within the district. For the building proposed at 3304 South Giles, this building features gang double hung windows with stone lintels and sills, and historic preservation staff recommends, and limestone cornice with a slight projection is proposed to cap the building with limestone belt courses to be above and below the windows. The facade is embellished with decorative inset stone squares, and limestone cladding will be used at the base. The front elevation has a raised entry with a stoop height of 5'4" above grade, and is clad in modular size face brick with a 10'8" wrap on the north and south elevations. And the proposed brick is the Brampton brick in the color brown velour. Since the side elevations will be visible, staff recommends increasing the length of the brick wrap on the side elevations to a minimum of 15 feet. And staff further recommends that the fiber cement siding shall be modified to more closely match the color of the face brick and have a smooth finish. For both buildings, the windows, doors, and stoop heights are similar to other historic buildings in the district, with exterior cladding materials that are typically found within the district, and the height is also within the historic range of heights found within the district. In conclusion, the staff recommends approval for both projects with the conditions mentioned during the presentation and also listed here on this slide. The aldermen and the community group have both reviewed the proposal and provided letters of support that were included in the packet. The architect and developer are both here. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we go to the applicant developer? Seeing none, I'd like to hear from the developers. Is it Tom Boney?
Yes, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on today. Just excited to get started on this project. This development has been in the neighborhood and has passed through, I think, 4 developers before I was able finally to be able to buy the property a few years ago. So these are the start of the single family homes we plan, and I'm just looking forward to get going on them.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the developer? Seeing none. Any points of discussion?
I just have a quick comment. I am extremely appreciative and happy of about the work that's happening all across our neighborhoods, especially the ones that are that have a lot of vacant lots, the ones that have been kind of underserved and under-resourced for quite some time. Very appreciative that these sort of developments are coming in and filling those vacant lots. I just want to challenge all of the teams that bring these designs forward to differentiate them a little bit and not be afraid to bring design to these properties, because most of them are reading the same, bleeding the same, all sort of look the same. So if we could just take it a step further and maybe hire an architect or a designer of some sort to differentiate the designs a little bit. And I'm saying that for this one, especially in particular as well, because I know this is the first of many houses that's going to come. And I'm hoping that it's not just a row of all houses looking the same. So that's my comment. Again, want to thank the developer and the team for tackling these projects and filling in the vacant lots of our neighborhoods. And I say ours because I do live in a neighborhood where this is happening as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Any other questions, comments?
I chime in just to echo Commissioner Hughes's point. I think that's a really worthwhile challenge. What jumped out to me in the submission that was put together were kind of the photo elevations of this area in particular, and albeit a lot of gaps in the block. One of the things that stood out was just some of the character of those structures that remained. So we're rebuilding into that space. I think that's the fabric that makes the character of the neighborhoods that, as the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, we're interested in ushering in that next generation of buildings that develop and foster that culture. So absolutely respect the work that's been done. I think that this is great in general. Kudos to the developer, but yeah, I think it's a strong opportunity moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. Any other comments for commissioners? Yeah, I just also want to echo both of my commissioners, Hughes and Commissioner Fair. We appreciate the work that's being done, but want to challenge a little bit in how can we make this not look like, how can we make it unique to Calumet Giles area and not look like maybe something that could be in Lincoln Park or other communities. Maybe there's some inspiration that could be drawn from the neighborhood a little bit more. The details are there. It's just maybe making, you have the stone details and you're trying to do something, but I think maybe just going one step further, and maybe you can get that from the surrounding buildings. I think that those are wonderful comments. Any other comments, questions, commissioners? Seeing none, any further points of discussion? Okay.
I'm sorry, one more quick question.
Yes.
So the future properties that are coming online here, are those conditionally approved with this, or are they each coming on to get approved, Emily?
This is Joyce.
Or Joyce, sorry.
No worries. They would have to come in and be reviewed separately.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question. Could we vote to have some additional refinement that would maybe not be reviewed at, again, I have to come through this, that could be reviewed at staff level? If we wanted to see a little more refinement to the elevations?
This is Joyce again. I can definitely continue to work with the architect on some additional, detailing to the front facade. The architect has provided streetscape, like photo montages of like other buildings within the district. So maybe we could take a look at those and kind of pick some details that we could maybe incorporate into these, into these buildings. So like for inspiration, I'm not saying to replicate them, but.
Right. Okay. I would request a motion to have, approve the staff recommendation and modify them to just have another look at the elevation per the comments that were made today. And I've seen in the past where, we could have that just be done at staff level, or a commissioner could be assigned to, be a part of that process too.
And Joyce, I'm happy to, if you need
Sure.
a commissioner's opinion.
Great, thanks,
Great.
Commissioner Hughes.
That's great. So with that, does someone want
I motion us to accept the staff recommendations with the addition of another staff level review for the front facades of both of these buildings in the near future. And I, Commissioner Hughes, I'm happy to step in with Joyce to work with the developer on that.
Excellent. Commissioner Hughes has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second that, Commissioner Fair.
Commissioner Fair seconded, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Ponce?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Ponce is yes, and Commissioner Rubin?
Definitely, yes.
Great. And I'm a yes as well. So the motion carries unanimously. Again, thank you for your commitment to the community, and we really look forward to what you come up with. Moving to our final project on the agenda, 3221 South Prairie in the Calumet Giles Prairie District, Alderman Sophia King, 4th Ward, proposed new 2-story single-family residence and detached 2-car garage. And Joyce Ramos has this one as well.
Sorry, I'm still trying to pull this one up here. This is okay. Oh, there it is. So 3321 South Prairie. This property is also located on the same Glasscobe development site as the last project that we just discussed. So the proposed 2-story masonry building is 19 feet in width and 55 feet in length, with a front yard setback of 14 foot 10. The proposed new building will have a front yard setback of 13 foot 4 inches. And new metal and a new 5-foot open metal fence is also proposed to be installed in the front of the property. The building has a raised entry with a stoop height of 5 foot 4 inches above grade, and the windows, doors, and stoop heights are similar to other historic structures in the district. Punched openings on the front facade contain single double hung windows with stone sills and lintels. And historic preservation staff recommends that all new windows be wood or clad wood, and that scaled and dimension window details through the head, jamb sill, meeting rail, and trim to be submitted with permit drawings for review. A limestone cornice with a slight projection and the limestone coping is proposed to cap the building. And the front elevation of the building is clad in modular size face brick in a taupe color with a 10-foot wrap on the north and south elevations. And at that point, the material transitions to a fiber cement siding, which is proposed in a timber bark color, which is approved and shall have a smooth finish. Since the side elevations would be visible, staff recommends to increase the length of the brick wrap on the side elevations to a minimum of 15 feet. So that really concludes my presentation. Similar to the last one, the alderman and the community group have also reviewed the proposal and provided letters of support. The architect and the developer are both here. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce or staff from commissioners? Seeing none, can we please hear from the developer, Mr. Tom Boney?
Hello again. Yeah, it's this house is opposite of the other two that were just introduced. We've got a strip of land facing both Prairie and Giles, and it's one there. And I just like to add that on the question was before, on these other lots, we do have to come back in and we wanted to go with these 3 homes because we have egress to them. We're working with the city on dedicating an alley here so we can get the rest of this lot developed. And so that's why you haven't seen all the designs yet as well until we can get the alley rededicated.
Interesting. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none, any points of discussion on this project? Seeing none, if there's no further discussion, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation for the project. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Rubin.
Commissioner Rubin has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconded, Commissioner Fair.
Seconded by Commissioner Fair, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Hughes.
I'm a yes.
All right. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes. I'm a yes. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing, the rest of the lots as well. And that brings us to the end of our agenda today. There being no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Do we have a second?
I'm happy to second that, Commissioner Fair.
Commissioner Fair, thank you. And all those in favor, I have to do a roll call. Roll call. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is yes, and Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
I'm a yes, and the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time today and for your efforts with the city. Thank you to all the staff for the great presentations. Have a great day, everybody.
Welcome, Commissioner
Thank you.
Rubin.
Oh, yes, welcome, Commissioner Rubin as well.
Welcome, Commissioner. Thank you, staff.
Thanks,
Amazing
everyone.
work with all of the projects.
Agreed.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.